the discipline of refusing to carry what was never yours. There is a hidden weight many of us carry through life. It is not made of stone. It cannot be seen. Yet it follows us into every room, every relationship, and every quiet moment. It is the belief that everything is about us. A cold reply becomes rejection. A delayed message becomes disrespect. A stranger's expression becomes judgment. A friend's silence becomes betrayal. A criticism becomes an attack on our worth. And before we realize what has happened, we are no longer responding to reality. We are responding to the story we created around it. This is one of the most dangerous habits of the mind. We take what is external and turn it into something personal. We absorb the moods of others. We carry their words. We inherit their frustration. We allow their behavior to enter our inner world and rearrange everything inside it. Then we wonder why we feel exhausted. But we were never meant to carry every opinion, every reaction, or every emotional wound that others place before us. Some things belong to them, not to us. This is where our discipline must begin. Not by becoming cold, not by pretending nothing hurts, but by learning to separate what happens from what we make it mean. Epictetus taught, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them." This truth is difficult because it removes the comfort of blame. It asks us to look inward. Someone may speak harshly to us. That is the event. But then the mind adds its interpretation. They do not respect me. They think I am weak. I must defend myself. I must make them understand. The event may last only seconds, but the interpretation can poison an entire day. This is how we surrender control. Not when someone speaks, but when we allow their words to define our inner state. The first action is to pause before interpretation. We must learn to let the event remain an event. A message is simply a message. A facial expression is simply a facial expression. A silence is simply a silence, until we assign meaning to it. The mind hates uncertainty. It would rather invent a painful explanation than admit that it does not know. So we assume, we guess, we personalize, and then we suffer from conclusions that may never have been true. The second action is to question the story. When we feel offended, we must ask, what do I actually know? And what am I merely imagining? Perhaps the person is tired. Perhaps they are afraid. Perhaps they are distracted. Perhaps they are fighting a private battle. Perhaps their behavior has nothing to do with us. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that people act according to their own understanding, their own fears, and their own limitations. This perspective does not excuse cruelty. It creates distance from it. We begin to see that much of what people do is a reflection of their inner world, not a verdict on ours. A bitter person spreads bitterness. An insecure person looks for flaws. A wounded person may speak from pain. An angry person may try to distribute anger. Why should we mistake their condition for our identity? Why should we allow their unrest to become our own? The third action is to stop seeking universal approval. This is one of the hardest lessons we will ever learn. No matter how carefully we live, someone will misunderstand us. No matter how kind we are, someone will question our motives. No matter how honest we become, someone will still judge us unfairly. If our peace depends on being understood by everyone, peace will remain impossible. Seneca warned against building our lives around public opinion. The crowd changes quickly. Today it praises. Tomorrow it condemns. The same voices that celebrate us may later criticize us. We cannot build a stable inner life on unstable approval. We must decide who we are before the world tells us who it thinks we should be. The fourth action is to examine our wounds honestly. Sometimes we take things personally because an old pain is still alive within us. A small comment touches a deep insecurity. A simple disagreement awakens a forgotten rejection. The present event is small, but the wound beneath it is ancient. If we do not recognize this, we will punish the present for what happened in the past. We will react not only to the person before us, but to every person who hurt us before them. Self-mastery requires honesty. We must be willing to ask, why did this hurt so deeply? What part of me feels threatened? What fear is asking to be defended? This is not weakness, it is courage. The person who understands their wounds becomes harder to control through them. The fifth action is to reclaim our attention. Attention is the currency of the inner world. Whatever receives our attention receives our energy. When we replay an insult, we give it power. When we obsess over someone's opinion, we invite them to live in our minds. When we keep revisiting a painful interaction, we continue the conflict long after the other person has left. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." How many times have we prolonged our suffering by repeating what happened? The words were spoken once, but we repeated them 100 times inside ourselves. We became both the wounded person and the one reopening the wound. At some point, we must stop, not because the event was acceptable, but because our peace is too valuable to sacrifice repeatedly. The sixth action is to choose principle over reaction. When others behave poorly, our task is not to mirror them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." This requires restraint. When someone is disrespectful, we feel tempted to become disrespectful. When someone is cruel, we feel justified in becoming cruel. When someone misunderstands us, we feel compelled to attack. But if another person can make us abandon our values, then they have gained more than a reaction. They have gained authority over our character. We must refuse that authority. We do not become calm because others deserve our calmness. We become calm because we deserve to remain ourselves. We do not choose dignity because the world is always dignified. We choose dignity because our character shouldn't depend on the behavior of others. The seventh action is to let go of what does not belong to us. Other people's judgments belong to them. Their assumptions belong to them. Their projections belong to them. Their moods belong to them. We can listen. We can reflect. We can correct ourselves when criticism is true. But we do not have to adopt every opinion as an identity. There is wisdom in asking, is there truth here that can improve me? If yes, take the lesson. If no, release the burden. We do not need to carry the entire voice of the critic. We only need to take what is useful. This is the deeper meaning of emotional resilience. It is not becoming numb. It is not becoming indifferent. It is learning how to feel without being ruled by feeling. It is learning how to listen without absorbing everything. It is learning how to remain open without becoming defenseless. The world may still misunderstand us. People may still disappoint us. Criticism may still arrive, but something within us begins to change. We no longer collapse under every opinion. We no longer see every silence as rejection. We no longer interpret every bad mood as a judgment. We stop making ourselves the center of every event. And strangely, this does not make us smaller. It makes us freer, because we finally realize that much of what we carried was never ours. So the next time someone is distant, do not immediately assume rejection. The next time someone criticizes you, examine the truth before accepting the wound. The next time someone is harsh, remember that their behavior may reveal more about their inner world than your worth. Pause. Question the story. Return to your principles. Protect your attention. Take the lesson, if there is one. Leave the rest behind. We are not responsible for controlling every perception of us. We are responsible for the quality of our own character. And once we understand that, the world loses much of its power to disturb us. Not because people stop speaking, not because judgment disappears, but because we stop turning every external event into an internal sentence against ourselves. We become quieter within, steadier, more difficult to manipulate, more willing to forgive, more capable of seeing clearly. And perhaps this is one of the greatest freedoms we can earn, to walk through a world full of opinions without allowing every opinion to become a burden, to remain kind without becoming fragile, to remain open without losing ourselves, to know that our worth is not rewritten every time someone fails to see it. Stop taking everything personally. Some things are lessons. Some things are projections. Some things are simply passing storms. Let them pass and keep walking.